Hello, welcome to PioSOLVER 1.9 release video. I'm going to go through new features, some changes, and I'm going to make some general remarks which hopefully makes using the software easier. So, first thing you are going to notice when you update your PioSOLVER is that there is now new organization of the top menu. So the options are grouped in categories to make them easier to find. Also, there is new arrangement for configuration window. So before there were a lot of checkboxes in one place, and now they are grouped. So hopefully they are easier to use and find and use. There are some additional things which I'm not going to talk in details about in details. But there, for example, you can change fonts now, and there are some new ways to play with colors, as well as some new instructions. So you can see what the value a color field does. But those things are for people who really like tinkering with graphical interface. So I'm not going to spend much time on it. Okay, so let's go to the proper features. First thing I want to talk about is a new tree building form. There are many changes here. So first, let me say that after the changes in this version, it is possible to build any tree, and we think that even though the form now is way more powerful, it's still very easy to use. So you can now combine ease of use with possibilities to build all the arbitrary trees. So first change is that there is now a field to make a donk bed size different than a normal bed. So let's see if we insert donk size of 50% and bed size of 100. So a pod size bed, and then we go to the browser. Let's say here, and yeah, a normal bed is 100%, 55 in the pod of 55. But when it comes to donk bed, so after bed call, there's only a very small bed, 50%. The way we input it here. So that's one way to change sizes in various lines. And another is you have now those add extra lines and remove lines options. So what they do, you can remove or add arbitrary lines. So for example, if you would like to remove an option to say call in on the turn against a second barrel on the turn, so you would only play raise or fold, you can insert this line, which is check continuation bet call, check on the turn, bet on the turn from IP player, and now we are removing an option to call. Let's verify. Calling is no longer here, so we can also only raise or fold. Of course, if you change it to raise, there will be no raise available against the second barrel. You can of course make remove more than one line. So if you want to remove a donk bet in the first place on the flop, you can do that. So there is no bet anymore. Another thing is that you can name the actions when you have more bet sizes. For example, let's add 150 bet size for IP player, and you want to remove raising again, calling against this bigger bet, but keep it against a smaller one. So we remove a call, but we need to say against which bet? Against this one. And now, in fact, there is no option to call against a big bet, but there is an option to call against a smaller one. Notice that the way I'm doing this, I'm experimenting with tree building, and then I'm building the tree without solving it, and I'm browsing. That's a recommended way to do things, because you can verify that the tree is what you want it to be without wasting time for solving something you don't want, for example. So you can experiment with configuration, build a tree, go browse it before it's solved. You can see that it's not solved. It's just completely random. And only when you are sure this is the tree you want to solve, then you go here and click go. So it works similarly with adding lines. So let's say we have a tree without a donk bed at all. So there is no donk bed available now. Only check. But you want to add a donk bed for OOP player on the turn. So the way to do that, you just insert the whole line again. So this is a check bed call. And now you want to add a donk bed of 50%. And in fact, it's here now. Also, if you would like to have different sizes for a probe bed, and let's say for in position player, you would like to have different bed sizes for second barrel and different bed size for in a check line. So the way to do that again is you can either insert two sizes. Let's say you want 65 and 8 and 100, or maybe 50 and 100, so it's easier to read. And you can remove one of those sizings, and in a check line, check, you want to remove bed 100, but in check bed call check, so here is a continuation bed and the second barrel, you want to remove the smaller one. So you can see it is check. We have only a small bed available, so this is 50%, 28 of 55. But when we go to coordination button and second barrel, we have only a big bed available. That's a pot size bed, 127 into 127 here. So that's one way, and another way would be to just add extra lines separately. So you can combine adding and removing lines, and this way you can construct any tree. You can vary sizings depending on the line, and this is a very powerful feature, and we hope it's still easy to use. So that's it. Okay, so one last improvement in tree building tab is that you can now lock ranges and board when you change configurations. Usually when you have those configurations, you have ranges and board saved. But you may want to experiment with a different bed size and structure, but don't change ranges and board. So we can check that. And now when you change configurations, you will see that those stay the same, only bed and structure change. And this is useful when you want to, as I said, experiment and play around with different size, with different structures, but keep your ranges and board the same when you analyze in a hand, for example. Okay. So that's it. Now let's talk about aggregation reports. They are now located in the analysis tab, and they got some new things as well as some bug fixes. So first, let's see how it looks now. You have precision options to choose from. There's full precision and there's human readable. Full precision is only a good idea when you are using some software to put those numbers somewhere, but when you are going to read it yourself, it's better to use human readable video reports. Yeah, but maybe I want to cut maybe here. More interesting here. Okay. Run. Choose human readable, maybe without all hands. Run it. It's quite fast on the turn. So test reports. I didn't change the path. Test video report. Okay. And now there is our report. So this is usual stuff here. Yeah, there's the usual report, but now it's in human readable form, so there is not as much decimal digits, but it's way easier to read. You may notice that there is all of those are random because I've just run a report on a new tree which is not yet solved. So yeah. Another thing is that when you run a multiple file report here, it's going to show you all the saves it's going to use for the report. It's going to tell you how many there are. So if you go down, I think it's here. So it says that it's doing it over 630 files. And also you can see all the flops with weights. So you can verify everything is how it should be. And again, you can choose human readable, and you can choose or not to include all EVs for all the specific combos. So like 7 of spades, 6 of hearts separately. I'm not going to run it now because that takes a while, but yeah, those are new options. Also, some bugs are fixed in specific. When you choose this EVs for all the hands, there were some bugs, like some hands were not included before, but now everything is fixed. So that's it. Okay, so now there's another feature which is global. Global frequency for, across all runouts. Frequency across all runouts. It was available before, like you can see here, for postflop trees, but now it's available for preflop as well. I'm going to show you how it works. So I have this case here, which is a small blind against big blind and 6 must play. This is this tree. So there's our opening range of 50%. By the way, it's interesting. I was solving that, and I didn't expect ace to offsuit to be a fold from a small blind when we have only raise and fold available. So that was surprising to me. It wouldn't be a fold if you allow a limp, but my test shows that limp is not worth that much. So when we have this save, IP is winning 1.687, and when we allow a limp and a raise, then it's going a big. It is a bit better for OOP, but the difference is smaller than 1 BP per 100 hands, so it's really not that much. So we can basically you are safe on the rate and then fold in from small blind if you want, especially in the rate games. That's a good idea. So anyway, now we can see that there is this frequency across runouts available. So this is nice, but it's especially nice when we go postflop. And as you can see, it takes a while now to generate because there are like 100 flops in this save. But we can see overall frequency for a continuation bet now from small blind, which is almost 40%. And if we go further, we will see what's the frequency against a continuation bet. Again, it takes a while to generate. So we can see that IP player, so big blind in this case, is raising on average 5%, calling 52 and folding 42. So I think this is interesting, and this is something you can compare to your database and see which way people are deviating from optimal frequencies. And again, it takes a while for preflop trees to calculate. You can switch this option off if you want here. So if you click that, there will be no frequency, and browsing is going to be way faster. Yeah, but it's interesting to see. So if you don't mind waiting a bit, then I'll allow that again. Okay. So another option is to generate all those overall frequencies in one place. So to do that, you click Ctrl+B to bring the solver console, and you type show all frequency, show all frags local PP. PP is for pretty print. It will take a while to generate because there are 100 flops, but we are going to wait to see it. There is going to be a documentation about this command, and you can see what kind of argument you can use and what different things you can generate. This is for now only supported from the solver console. In the future, it's going to be a part of graphical interface, but not in this release. You'll see. So those are all the lines from the tree. I mean, this is a small save, so there's only preflop and flop. But yeah, and you have frequencies of all the lines. So all the actions in hold the tree across all runouts. So for example, when you have raise, 3-bet, 4-bet, call, check, and then continuation bet, and the call is 40%, right? So you can see like frequencies of all the lines, and this is something you can compare to your Poker Tracker or Hold'em Manager databases, and see how optimal solution plays compared to how people play. Yeah. So there's going to be documentation. Also, feel free to ask questions in our 2+2 forum thread about this, because I think it is very nice actually. So yeah. Another thing is maybe let me load instead this one. Other thing is now there is an option to change what those numbers here mean. Some people notice that those numbers are not exactly the same as those. So they are a bit different, very similar but a bit different. And the reason for that is that those numbers by default are a average strategy. So this is what the player thinks they are playing without taking card removal from opponent's range into account, because they may not be aware what the opponent's range is. And those numbers are real frequencies. So how often things happen in reality. So card removal is included here. And in this release, you can change the way those numbers are displayed to match those. So I'm going to show you an example where the differences are in fact big. So we have a river case here, and this is a toy game. The board is there are 3 tens on it, and the ranges are one player has only 8-10 and 8-8, ace-10 and 8-8, and the other have a lot of tens and some other random hands. So let's build it and solve it. It solves almost instantly, as you can see, perfect precision. So yeah, if we go check and the bet, we can see that our OOP player is raising 33% and folding to 66%. That's because they have only 2 combos in the 2 hands in the range, and there are 3 combos of ace-10, those ones, and 6 combos of 8-8. So he's folding those and raising those. So from his perspective, he's raising 1/3 of his range and folding 2/3 of his range. But this is not what really happens, because when we go one step back, we can see that IP player is mainly betting his tens, assemblages, but mainly tens. So we can expect that here OOP player doesn't have ace-10 that often, because card removal effect. And if we change that here to show total frequency, total structure as real frequency, and we refresh by clicking here, we can see that in reality they are only raising 3.3%, because they don't have ace-10 that often, and 8-8 is way more frequent hand here. So if we go a step further as well, we can see that as we are only raising ace-10, then the IP player is always folding in reality, because he always have ace-2. He doesn't have those hands, so 0, almost 0. But if you go back to displaying it the standard way, we can see that he thinks that he is raising a lot here and calling a lot, because he doesn't realize this way. He doesn't realize what opponent range is, and he doesn't realize it's only tens in there. So I hope it's clear, and now you can switch those options and yeah, see one thing or the other. It's not that one thing is wrong or right. It's like just different kind of information, because it depends on point of view and how much a player is realizing. I mean, how much they know about what is happening. Okay, so let's go to some new features in preflop building tab. This is for edge users, of course. So first thing is that the preflop solver is now a bit more precise and a bit more stable, which should make solving trees with more bit sizes more reasonable. Sure, I wouldn't. Still, I wouldn't recommend using multiple postflop sizes when you are solving preflop trees. But yeah, it's going to be a bit more stable now, a bit more precise. Okay, so when it comes to tree building, there is now an option to keep the focus on a node even if we add new ones. So you can add raise, call, and fold in 3 clicks like that. It doesn't move the focus if you don't click. So again, forward, call, fold. So it's way easier this way. You can change it, by the way, to the old behavior here. So now if you add something, the focus is moved here. But yeah, the new way is probably more convenient. And another thing, another feature here is that you can now copy configuration to a configuration to clipboard. So I have my save here, and I can copy it to clipboard. And now when I open a notepad, you can see that there's this configuration. And this is a useful way to share configurations with other people, because when I restart my viewer, I can paste this configuration here, and I can have it. So you can give it to a friend or paste on the forum or somewhere, and have other people look at your configuration. So that's it. Okay, so now let's talk about preflop charts. Preflop chart. So this is, you can bring them if you hit Ctrl and P at the same time. And there are some new things there. So let's first let's preflop charts. Let's remove all of this. So we generate it from scratch. So first, when you have preflop solution, say this one. We are using this one today. You can generate preflop charts from this. The tools for that are located in tools, and you can generate preflop charts from current solution, as well as generate preflop charts from current solution in selected node only. So you can have only this here or the whole preflop play. So let's say you want all of them. And now there are new options. You can choose some rounding. So let's round to 10%, for example. You can choose output directory as well. This is the one I want. This. And now the prefix. This is SB against the BB and 6max. So we generate all of them. And now when we go to preflop charts, you can see our charts here. So this is an opening range. This is OOP against a 3-bet. This is OOP against a shove. This is IP against an opening range. So it's all available here. And another thing you can do now is, let's say you want a chart against an open raise for IP, and you can now generate images. So there's tools generate images. So if you generate just one, what we are going to get here is just this table. So you don't have to make a screenshot. You can generate this like this image. But what this feature is really good for is you can generate more than one. If you generate a series of 10 images, you're going to get a series of images with varying ranges. And what it does is randomizes for you. So what it does, underneath it runs a clock, and the first chart is what you do in the first second, third second, fourth second. So you can use those for randomizing if you input that in some program which automatically switches depending on time. Then you can have your ranges, and you can have mixing, mixing from pure stretches for 10 images. This may be a bit advanced, but people who need that, they know what I'm talking about. So let's leave it at that. Okay, there is some also new functionality. You can move ranges like here, so you can rearrange them, so it's easier to edit. Also, there is this tree now, so you have all of them in one place. They are read from preflop charts folder. If you make additional folder here and move a range or two there, then it's going to appear here as a subfolder. So you can now have all your charts in one place, so it's easier to use. Okay, so another feature, again for edge users only. I mean, not only, but let me get to that. Now the preflop solver and postflop solver switch automatically. So when you build a postflop tree right here, it switches automatically for postflop, and when you go to when you load, for example, a preflop solution, it switches for preflop. Before you needed to do that by hand, but you don't anymore. So that's convenient. And yeah, basic and pro version, this release will have a preflop browser available, so you will be able to load the preflop solutions calculated by other people, for example, by our friend from PioCloud. So you'll be able to browse preflop solutions, but not solve them. Yeah, this is, I think, a fair compromise because yeah, developing a preflop solver is a big task, so we don't want to like give it away for cheaper, but we want people to be able to browse the solutions which they may buy from other people or share or whatever. So yeah, it's going to be available. Okay. So another improvement is about Hotness feature. So let me load my postflop tree, which I'm using today. So again, Hotness is available here. A runouts EV comparison, but it's easier to bring it up using Ctrl and H at the same time. So this is our typical Hotness window, but now you can also display strategy. So you can, for example, see this is a second barrel in 6max, so you can see which card is the most friendly one to second barrel. You can see that the 10 of clubs is like 60%, but 9 of clubs is 36. As usual, you can calculate EV of both players. So for IP, the best card is probably, I don't know, 10 of diamonds, 74, and the worst one is maybe 9 of clubs. Yeah, so you can see EV for both players, equity as well, and strategy, which is new. So yeah. And when I'm talking about Hotness, you will notice that it's a bit different here. And if you go one back, the values you get here are a bit different than before. And the reason for that is that EV has to be calculated somewhere. So we are assessing turn cards here, but we are calculating EV in the node which is selected. So here, this is the first decision of OOP, but here it's going to be a bit different place. So yeah, those are different numbers. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so there are also some small improvement in range selector. So first, when you go to, let's say, range explorer here, and you will notice that everything is selected by default now. So you can see all those stars. And if you want to show something for a custom range, the selector is now a bit better because you can see which hands are possible to to choose from. But also there is some new things. Let me select range. There's a new operation, range multiplication. Wait. So you can have a range, you can multiply it by some other range. And this doesn't, sound very useful at first, but what you can use it for is if you take, for example, strategic here, and you copy it as a strategy, copy, change to clipboard, and now you go to range selector, and now you use some range, I don't know, this, and you can multiply by strategy. Messed up. So copy strategy for bet. We want range. Yes, and we want to multiply by strategy. So multiply by strategy, and we can verify that what we get is a range at this location. So anyway, this is maybe not very useful for most users, but some want to like play around with ranges, so you can multiply now. And another thing. Okay, so another feature I would like to talk about, even though it was available in previous release, I didn't mention it because I forgot. But some people noticed that there is now this button available here, and what it does is compares EV of actions. So for example, here we have a continuation bet, and we have 3 actions for OOP player, which is raise, call, and fold. And you can compare EVs of, for example, call and fold. What you get here is you get hands for which a call is better in green, hands for which a fold is better in blue, so like king 6 without a backdoor, and hands which are very close in white. So when you hover your mouse, you will see that this is like very close, because it shows EV for one action, another action, and then a difference in favor of the better action. So this is very close, that's why it's in white. So let's go to the turn and try it again. Here you can see that calling with a 9 is better because it's in green, and the folding is better with those hands. So yeah, this is an easier way to visualize EVs. And try comparing a raise to a call as well, but then almost everything is in white. So yeah. Okay, so that's a feature I wanted to mention because I forgot about in previous release. Okay, so that's it when it comes to major functionality changes. There are a lot of bug fixes in this release, which are mainly not visible for people who didn't run into problems before. There are some small interface improvements which I was unable to remember, but one example I just thought about now is that when you have a preflop save, I'm going to switch off this total frequency for now. To make it faster. Now when you are browsing preflop tree, you can switch between boards using control plus arrows as before, and down arrow moves the highest card down. So now we see 10 high flop, 9 high flops, 8 high flops, and back. And the right and left arrow moves inside. There are many queen high flops, so you can switch between them using left and right arrows. So yeah, there are many flops here, 97. So this is useful for navigation. So we don't need to go back and forth. We can just switch like that. And there are many improvements like that in this release. I'm not going to list them all. You will just see when you are using the program. Okay, so that's it. I think you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this release. Again, the major feature I think is this new tree generation, as well as those total frequencies, which now works for preflop. And yeah, that's it. Let us know what you think. The best place to express your feedback is on our 2+2 thread. It's when you go to 2+2 forum, no limit, and then commercial software. And you have our thread here. And I'm answering in this thread way more often than I answer on Skype, for example. And all the questions which are general questions about the solver are the best asked here, not using the email. Okay, so thank you very much for listening and have fun.